Thank you everyone for joining us today for a very exciting panel discussion and workshop. It's like a different kind of format that we have today. Just like some housekeeping um, notes for today, we have another panel discussion and mixer coming up, which is in person. This is in May. So in every panel discussion, we sort of like introduce our next one. So this the next one that's happening in May. It's a health tech mixer in Boston. So if you're around, please join us. We'll share the Eventbrite link in our chat. And if you want to keep updated with the events that we have and whatever is going on at Loft, you can subscribe to our newsletter as well. And then we can jump right into our panel discussion for today. We'll start with some intros. I can get started. I'm Saloni Bedi. I'm an industrial designer here at Loft. I'm calling in from Providence, Rhode Island, which is our headquarters for Loft Design. And I'll pass it on to Maggie. Oh, I think you're muted, Maggie.
Every time. I'm Maggie Snook. I'm a senior industrial designer at Loft, and so maybe we can just go from left to right here. Um, Start with Naya.
Sad if you want to go next.
Awesome. Hey everyone, I'm Saad, based between Boston and New York. One of the co-founders at Naya. So grateful to be here and thanks for having me, Saloni and Meg.
Hey everyone, I'm Vivek. I'm the other co-founder here. I'm the CTO at Naya Studio. Super excited to be on the panel. Yeah, I'll pass it on to the folks at Vizcom. Yeah.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. I'm Gergely Mihai, Senior Product Expert at Vizcom, and I'm also super excited to be here. Originally, I was an industrial designer, and I started working with Vizcom very early on, and it's awesome to see its growth and to actually contribute to it as well. So I'll pass it to Steve.
Yeah, hi everyone. Nice to meet you all. My name is Steve Kaditz. I'm a sales director here at Vizcom, based out of Seattle, Washington. Excited to be a part of the discussion here today and answering the team's questions, as they come up. So yeah, looking forward to digging in.
Awesome. A little bit about the format today. We'll have two sections in the hour. The first one would be like demos and intros to both Naya and Vizcom for people who are new to both of any of these tools. And then we'll go into the panel discussion part of the session. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll cover as much as possible in the time we have. And I'm gonna stop sharing and I'll let Naya team, if you guys want to share your screen and we can get started.
So I think I just need the access. Okay, awesome. Cool. Let me know when everyone can see this. It's okay? All right, cool. Yeah, so we'll just briefly walk through a little bit about where Naya came from, why we created it, and then of course we'll jump into the demo. Maybe I'll let Vivek just briefly introduce himself a little bit more, your background, and then I can jump in.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, a bit about my background and how I ended up working on Naya. Spent a few years in aerospace engineering, building private jets for celebrities around the world, but learned a lot about making products for everyone. But since then, I've always been at this intersection of design and engineering. I worked in digital, in physical, healthcare, finance, aerospace, data science. But all the time, I think the goal for me has always been to build great products. And that's what I continue to do. And with Naya, I was inspired to help others do that as well. How do you come together to build great products? And that's where our story began. But Sad will take it from here and also show what we have been building.
Awesome. Thanks, Vivek. Yeah, and on my end, I spent over a decade in the physical product design world. Started off in engineering, and I got the chance to work on projects from solar energy systems to earthquake retrofits, to textiles, commercial high rises, and even toilets. So I got my hands pretty dirty, to say the least, in the physical product world. Got pretty frustrated with the overall workflow of creating physical products. And that's what ultimately drove, I guess, myself and Vivek to leave our jobs and go looking for an answer to try and make this workflow a little easier. And that first brought us back to school, actually, to Harvard, where we didn't find any answers, unfortunately, but we did get this chance to go deep and understand the nuances behind the challenges within this workflow. And we came out of that experience inspired and with a strong sense of conviction that we can create something here. So that was a few years ago. Since then, we've also built this incredible team all over the world with a ton of lived experience. We're backed by investors at Figma, Google, Pinterest, amongst others. And so we've really created this incredible organization here that's helping to drive this forward. I'm sure there's a bunch of product designers on the call today that understand, this industry really deeply. But, I guess briefly to talk about the challenge here, creating physical products is really hard, right? We require hundreds of different steps, from design briefs to sketches to 3D models to shop drawings and multiple versions of each of these, right? On top of that, you're touching dozens of collaborators, from designers to fabricators, and also many, many different software platforms. And what we find is not only is this a coordination challenge today, it's actually not getting any easier, right? With AI, we're actually bringing more collaborators into this workflow and more assets within this workflow, which is making coordination even more challenging. So this is what we call sort of the bird's eye view of the challenge. Jumping down to the ground floor, this might look familiar. This is a typical desktop of a member of the product team. Today, you've got a folder with a bunch of assets in it, 2Ds, 3Ds. You've got a Google Home perhaps with a bunch of documents in it, and you've got your browser with a bunch of tabs open to Figma and Miro and what else, right? And so not only is this not a great place to really orchestrate a good product journey, but these are the most valuable artifacts that lead to the end products that we create, and they're sort of just stuck in these sort of different folders. So what does this do? Creates a whole host of challenges, everything from losing files, right? Challenges with sharing work, challenges with getting feedback and approvals, telling a good product story, onboarding a new team member that joins halfway through a project, right? The list of challenges just goes on. And so by bringing all this into one place, not only can we fix many of these challenges, but we also have this really rich information and data that we can then leverage to help superpower your workflow. And of course, we'll talk a little bit more about this with the demo itself. Ultimately, our core goal and mission here is to partially help you to document and keep track of your journey in a really effective way, but also to ensure that the projects that you're delivering for your customers are delivered on time, on budget, and of quality, right? That is what our platform is designed to do. And I guess in a simple way to put it is, you can drop in any asset you want to, from Figma to Miro to 3D. You can work on all these assets within one space, collaborate on all these assets in one space, and then you can use this data to help you come up with new concepts and new insights. We're fortunate to have worked with some really, really fantastic organizations to co-create this product, and we're also loving it today. And so, we're excited to continue to onboard new teams, and perhaps there's some folks here that are interested in onboarding after the call today. Okay, so those are just some quick context slides here. I will jump right into the demo, and let me know if you can still see my screen. Yeah, and it's a messy desktop, right? Yeah, okay, cool. So where we like to begin this demo is, really showing that earlier screen that we shared, where there was a bunch of different, folders open, and you've got your 2Ds and 3Ds, and you've got your Google Home, and you've got your browser with a bunch of different tabs open, and clearly just not a great place to manage a journey, right? And many teams, are onboarding projects onto Naya halfway through a project. So that's the first thing that I want to demo for you. So to onboard onto Naya is really easy. What I can do is I can just grab a few assets from this folder, for example, and I can just drag and drop them right within Naya browser-based platform, as you would on other platforms. And you see that they're going to come up here as what we call blocks, blocks which are essentially containers that are holding this information. Okay, and once they're blocks, they can be moved around just like Lego, and you can sort of reorganize the information as you add it in here. So that's one way to get stuff in. Another way to get your assets in here is to just simply connect your Google Drive, or SharePoint folder, and to bring those assets that are already existing in that space directly into your workflow. Okay. The third way to get assets in here is, okay, maybe I am working on, a Figma link. I can copy that link over here, and I can just paste it within this space, right? And once assets are in here, not only can you view these containers, but they're actually all these assets are previewable. So this includes over 70 different types of 3D models, videos, PDFs, and then of course links, all here within one workspace. Okay, so that's how you're getting an existing project in one space. The next thing we want to demo is if you're starting fresh, right? So if you're starting fresh, what many teams will do is really design their workflow, right? So if you have a workflow that you've been using for a number of years or something that works well for you, you can customize and create this workflow ahead of time to work with your different teams or clients on within Naya. And you can sort of build that out as a template to sort of complete, right? And we have a number of different features in here to like customize this workflow. If you want to add notes onto here, if you want to change, various colors, different teams may be using colors for different ways of organizing information. And then of course, creating some light guardrails in here to actually, manage this project and create due dates. Okay, so that's sort of setting up that existing workflow that you might want to run. The other thing you can do is create files right from Naya. So we have deeper integrations with Miro, with Google, with Microsoft, and with Onshape. And so, for example, if I create a Google Doc within this space or Microsoft PowerPoint, what I can actually do is I can work on this document right within this space. So you don't have to necessarily leave Naya. And if you're working with a team member that prefers to use PowerPoint and you prefer to use Docs or Figma, you're co-creating, in the exact same space here, which is quite powerful. And we also have built in this neat little feature here. If you want to bring images in really easily, you can do that right from Google Images. Okay. Last thing I'll share with this piece here is we also have in-house tools. So we have in-house canvases. We have in-house canvases. We have in-house text blocks, and we have in-house to-do lists that some teams are also electing to use through their workflow. Okay. Let's flash forward to this project is already complete. You've gone through this, your whole journey here. This is an example of an alarm clock design that was done on Naya from end to end. And what you see here is every single sketch, every single model, every shop drawing, every prototype, all of that in one space. And it's very much a living space. So I can filter down into, the Google Slides. I can filter down into the Figma files, into the 3D models. So I can search for assets really, really quickly after they're in one space. The other thing I can do is, turn this into a template and use it again for another project, or I can share this, and really tell a good story from here, or I can present, specific assets right within this space as well. In fact, this space is so loved that the VP of Design at Miller Knoll asked us to build a button just to export this as a poster because all this information is not captured often through the course of a project. So I've shown you how to add, how to work in this space, how to present in this space, and how to organize this space. Briefly, I want to share how to collaborate. So collaboration, there's a couple different ways to do this. One is I can just share blocks on a very granular level, or I can share on a project-wide level. That's important if I'm managing hundreds of stakeholders and I need to know, well, what exactly was shared with this particular stakeholder, or can I give this person a customized view? And in fact, you can even save views. So you can create specifically client views, designer views, marketing team views, just to make your workflow a lot easier that way. So that's one way to collaborate. Another way to collaborate is to drop comments on anything, right? So models, that includes videos. So, you don't necessarily need access to a 3D modeling platform to be able to participate within this journey. And you can have this collaboration layer that crosses across teams and different stages of the process all in one space. And when you do that, you have a little task panel as well that you can utilize to sort of, deliver tasks and ensure comments are being received. So that's collaboration. I'm going to take a quick step back to show you what our studio view looks like. This is where you have all your projects in one place. All your different templates can live here. You can organize things through list view. You can group them together. And we've just started to build out some templates that are really helpful to get teams started within the project. Okay. The last thing that I want to talk about is, of course, our AI features. So now that you have all these assets in one space, this is some really rich data, right? And what if you could actually use this data to help you create new designs and new insights? So something that we built is called Project Memory. Project Memory turned off, but in this case, we've turned it on. just to share the example with you. And what it's essentially done is read everything within this project. So all the Figma files, all the docs, all the 3D models, everything to create this sort of central intelligence, which we call a memory, right? Now with that memory, what I can do is some fun things. So down here, we have an AI panel, and the AI panel is separated into two groups. One group is insights, and the other group is concepts. Okay, so within concepts, I can create images, I can create 3D models, I can create new text, and I can create presentations. So I'll just go ahead and hit the presentation button for a second. On the insight side, I can organize information. I can run some insights like, I want to understand what the cost of this project is going to be, right? There's other fun things here that you can play with, summarizing and understanding next steps, but we'll just demo a couple things for now. So just to show you what the presentation looks like, this is something that's being created with all of that existing information that I sent it. And so this can be a great way, if I just want to onboard a new team member, I want them to get a really good idea of what that project looked like. Or maybe I'm using this for a presentation and I want to take this format and I want to start to edit and iterate on it, to customize it for myself, right? And then just briefly to show you what an insight looks like, this is basically all those blocks were sent to this insight engine, and a manufacturing cost for what this thing should cost was created here, and you can share that with your users or use that to kind of inform design decisions. Okay. The last AI feature that we'll share is just flipping over here. I can actually select particular assets within this, so I can go ahead and grab these 3 assets, and I can actually right click and I can actually generate 3D models here. So this does take a couple of minutes to load. And so for just ease, I'm going to just share what 3D models were already created right before this call. So what's essentially happened is the 3 blocks that I sent this turned into a bunch of 3D models. First concepts, and then actually 3D models that I could actually play with here. So this is just a great way to, if you have a bunch of information, previous product catalogs, Pinterest boards, whatever you might have going on a project, to generate some new concepts that you can then, jumpstart into your process. So ultimately, some ways to kind of augment and automate your workflow here in some of the 3D features, some of the AI features that we've designed. Yeah, I'll pause there.
Amazing. That was so nice. That was so exciting. Thank you so much for presenting. I think, that gave a really nice view, from the bird's eye, but also going into the AI features. Thank you so much, Saad. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat and we'll take them at the end of the session. And we can hand it over to the Vizcom team, Steve and Gergi.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. And super cool technology, Saad. The gears are already turning on potential ways we might be able to integrate or complement each other. So just a quick background on Vizcom, as Gergi is pulling up his screen. We are an AI-powered design platform built by designers and for designers. The story behind that is really tied to our founder, Jordan Taylor, who's an industrial designer by trade. He graduated from CCS. He worked as an automotive designer at Honda before joining an early days skunkworks team at NVIDIA. At NVIDIA, he got a really cool look around the corner of what was coming from an AI perspective, and ultimately left and created Vizcom. And really what he saw as an opportunity is, as a designer, the part of his process that he loved was creating a concept, sketching that out, and that he himself is able to interpret these concept sketches when he's collaborating with his design teams. They were able to really clearly communicate around these sketches. However, when other stakeholders got into the mix across the organization, that's where the concept sketches started falling down, and he saw really interesting opportunity for AI to step in on the part of the process that he as a designer didn't enjoy doing as much, which is creating these photorealistic renderings that would either take a ton of time or require reliance on a partner in the 3D design space. And that would really slow down his workflow. So he ultimately created Vizcom, really focused on how do we enable the skill sets of designers to communicate visually, and then complement that with the power of AI to sort of fill in and color in some of these concept sketches. The other element I just call out from the beginning is that I think another great aspect of Jordan's background in the automotive space is that the target market for this technology has always been professional design teams within enterprise organizations. Specifically, we started out focusing on the automotive ecosystem, some of the most private organizations in the world. So unlike other AI technologies, we've really focused on building in the IP protections and the security and compliance aspects that are critical for us to enable customers to trust and leverage this technology. We never train models on our customers' data. All of these things are developed in-house, and a lot of other things that we can unpack there from a security and compliance aspect. We have been really successful in earning customers' trust. We've got just going on about 100 enterprise customers with names from folks in the automotive space like Ford, apparel and footwear organizations like Puma, Adidas, New Balance, CPG organizations like Coca-Cola, and really across industries. So that's kind of the high level, and let's just dig into the product. Gergely, I'll hand it over to you.
Oh, you're muted.
And yeah, Gergely, your turn to be on mute.
Thank you. Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Steve. So basically for today's demo, I was thinking what could be a relevant project to showcase Vizcom's capabilities with. And I could go into like an automotive workflow or a furniture workflow or anything that is like already defined as what the product is. But I think that's always a bit more interesting if we have a product category or a product which is essentially new. It was like never done before maybe. And we just want to create something new with the help of these like advanced tools. So that's what I'm going to do today. And I just start with that Vizcom is quite a cohesive design platform. We try to develop it in a way that it can provide a nice like end-to-end design workflow, but also keeping in mind how designers work and what tools they are using and trying to make sure to integrate with those tools as well. I'm just going to open up this file what I've started developing here. And the first things which I would mention is the actual product itself. I was just thinking about, I traveled especially a lot last year, and I was always a little bit uncertain about the water's quality, and I always wanted to check it. And it would be such a nice thing to have like a handheld water checking device. So this was just a super quick idea, 9 a.m. this morning. So just quickly wanted to develop something like that with the help of Vizcom. So the first thing which I would start with is that I can create a file that can actually share it with anybody else. And then we can also like collaborate in these same spaces, and we can co-create together as well. But I can, of course, also work alone inside here. So we have an infinite canvas view, which gives us a lot of opportunities to explore and build concepts that way. But I will just start at the beginning, and everything starts from a sketch in the drawing studio. So that's what I'm going to do here. I just go back to the drawing studio, and basically that would be like one of the main interfaces of Vizcom. Here I can sketch on the canvas. I can structure the renderings at the left side, and I can describe how I want the things to look and feel basically. So for starting, I would just sketch out a super basic shape. I wanted to have something which is like rounded and approachable. So I will just start with a super simple shape, maybe something like this. And anyways, with the actual description of this device, I will just plug in a simple description, not to waste time here, which describes a modern, minimalist, rounded water quality checker device. But what can be interesting here is that we have a recent feature, which is a real-time rendering, and that allows me to instantly have like a render preview of the device that I want to create. So I can just tweak the sketch on the canvas, and I can adjust the proportions of it a bit, and I can keep sketching in different details to basically build up the foundational elements of this concept. So here I said in the prompt that we have a screen. So I will also just sketch in a screen, and I use basic shapes, but I could also use line drawings. This is just a handier way to do this shape at the moment. And now we started outlining something. At the same time, here I can also just modify on the actual layout a bit more. so I can allow myself a bit more space to explore. I put the render preview there so I can just sketch a bit nicer on the actual canvas. I also want to add in some legs as the actual image suggests there. So I will just color pick here and maybe sketch in a few legs. And I can also add here that, the sensor legs prompts are already added. So it will try to do something like that as well. And here we have controls about the actual shape sticking, or what we call the drawing influence. So if I keep the drawing influence slider high, it's going to try its best to stick as much as possible to these lines on the canvas. And each time I regenerate a new interpretation on top of the same description, it will always try to stick to the lines that are on the canvas. As I start lowering down on the actual drawing influence, it will start to deviate from the shape up until the point where it will have nothing to do with the shape and it will do something on its own. So I want to keep this very high. And at the same time, I also have palette influence, which is going to determine the strength of the visual. So I can go low, get back to my original sketch if I want to respect it a bit more. And then I can just slightly put the renderings on top of it. But maybe I want to have a more rendered scene, something like that. This could work quite nice. And as I said, I can always create a new interpretation. Perhaps let's go back in history and let's actually add this one. I can just add it to the screen and we can notice that this is just a low quality preview. It's like squinting your eyes and just roughly visualizing the idea, but we have different tools to now enhance the actual quality of it. For example, now I can get back to the refine tool. I'll just set back quickly the interface here. So with the refine tool, I have the same controls. Essentially, it will try to keep it true to the actual aesthetic of this established little rough image, but it will try to offer a bit more quality into the actual image itself. And the result of it will be determined by this drawing influence slider. If I keep the influence higher, it will be closer to this image. And as I start lowering, it will get a bit, we will provide a little bit more freedom to it. But this step is going to be nice because it's just refined the edges. So I can go ahead and this surface transition will be good. What I can also do is I can completely re-render it, but now with better quality. So I can just head to the render panel and I can also here set up a drawing influence, set up the actual style of the rendering. I keep using this general palette, which can be good for quick photorealistic results. So I'm just going to use this for now, but maybe for the screen, I have a different idea. So in this case, now it's going to completely re-render the actual product. And we still have the option to explore here. I'm going to settle with this one. I can add this to my layers panel. And one of the strengths also with Vizcom is that everything is structured in the layers panel. So if you want to also combine different ideas, I can also just utilize the layers to now maybe get back to the previous legs, but still maintain some of these like screen elements from this rendering. So I can just put this layer above the other one. And here I can like start erasing with the eraser tool. And it's just like a very comfortable way of combining different ideas together, very natural for a designer. But anyways, what I actually want to do here is I want to just remove a few elements. And I can do that with this magic eraser function. So I can just brush over on the elements that I want to remove. And now it will just nicely clean it up. At the same time, I maybe want to have some sort of like UI-like screen here with more playful graphics. So what I can do is instead of re-rendering the entire scene, I can just now select this screen portion. I have different selection tools for it, just like Bezier or auto selection, but I will use this manual lasso now. And I can actually switch to a different palette, which can be good for this very flat, playful images. So here I can just leave in the prompt of water graphics, waves flowing on the screen. And I can give it a go with this different palette. And after that step, I can just actually make a 3D model out of the rendering tool at basically any given moment in the workflow. This will take a bit more. I usually just multitask, duplicate the page, and then at the same time, like do something else as well. So I'm just gonna quickly showcase some of the different palettes that we can explore out of Vizcom. So I had an input image like this, and I can very similarly explore different ideas at the workbench view. And I'll just quickly lay out some of the different palettes or render styles that we can see out of Vizcom. We have something that is like very minimalist that I kept using the general palette. We have like a raw 3D model look palette too, something which is very realistic as well. And then we have the more artistic styles. If you want to communicate that the idea is not a super realistic final product, but we still want to have like clean surfaces in a pretty nice sketched out style, we can also take advantage of these. Alternatively, we can also train our own palettes, which gives us a lot of flexibility. In this case, I just wanted to fit this one into its unique like family approach to an inflatable palette that I've actually put together before out of this dataset images. So now I can utilize it, and now I can create like an inflatable version out of this. Now I can maybe go back and check out how the more flatter graphics did. That's a very cool interpretation here. So I'm going to use this one. And at any moment, as I said, let's turn this into a 3D geometry. I have different options. If I have a single view, then I can just select this smooth option, for example. But if I already have different views of the product, I can take advantage of those as well. At the same time, I will just simply copy and paste maybe a number on it, because we want to sort of classify the water quality a bit. So maybe we can have a number on the screen, and we can also maybe have a check mark if the water was clean enough. And I can just simply copy and paste elements from Photoshop, Illustrator, or from any other applications as well. Awesome. Now, at this point, I can also just simply remove the background to maybe repurpose it into a different scene. And with that, I can also now just discuss some of the reference functionality that we have. We can just set different colors. If you have a very specific hex code, we can upload different material options as well that we want to just put at different places. But here I will just very quickly do an environment reference, and maybe I can do something like this as a scene, because we want to sort of visualize it on water. So I can just simply prompt that device splashes into water, maybe. And I can set the scene as the environment and click generate here. This will also take a few seconds, but usually it's very, very much worth the wait, because we can get a very nice scene. And here the main goal of this feature is to keep the design as how it is, but only change the reflection and the lights and the lighting conditions. And we can select here many scenes to repurpose products. In the meantime, I can just also maybe show a few examples on this. For example, with this chair, we can put it into this colorful smoke dramatic scene, or we can also put it into a modern living room as well. Oops, my time is about to end here, but I'll just quickly add this one to the canvas now. And as the final step, now that we have the product in a scenery, I can just also go outside and finish up a workflow with an upcoming feature that we can maybe also discuss at the upcoming feature section. But I just wanted to share this, that we can also make animations out of it now pretty soon with the help of Vizcom. So I just quickly sneak peek, show these animation feature as well to basically finish up the workflow. And now we could successfully communicate an idea to a stakeholder, for example. So that would be a super quick look on some of the Vizcom capabilities. I haven't even showed the actual 3D model that we could create out of it. So I just quickly show that and see how it did. It's super cute. It tried to figure out the other parts of it. I didn't have the different views, so it kind of made it symmetrical this time. And this one was the input image for it, I believe. But anyways, I can show different examples on that. Basically, that's what I wanted to cover today. And let me know if you have any questions regarding Vizcom.
Cool. Thank you so much. I feel like every time I open Vizcom, I see something new, and actually I'm going to use the environment reference right after this. This is awesome. Thank you so much. So yeah, if anybody has specific questions, I already see one in the chat, but we'll get to those in a little bit. I have one question. You all already answered a lot of my questions, but I have one question for both teams. Maybe we can start with Vizcom and then go to Naya, but about how you both have kind of personalization features within the apps. So it's really interesting. Like I'm seeing it with palettes, and then I heard a little bit about Naya kind of personalizing design your workflow, I think. So maybe we could start with Vizcom. You could talk about how different users are taking advantage of that and how it's helping their teams.
Yeah, it's a really great question. And I think one that's becoming increasingly important. I think that's where designers have really gravitated towards Vizcom because, yes, there's a lot of excitement around AI technologies. There's a lot of interesting things that you can do. But the second you try to apply these capabilities to professional design teams with a lot of clarity around what the intent behind a design is, it's very critical that you're able to realize the unique aspects of the design that you're bringing to life. That could be adherence to the actual concept sketches that you're creating. That could also be adhering to a particular rendering style. And like Yerge's showing here, being able to train very specific rendering styles based off of input images. But, we're really seeing like there was the wow factor of being able to just like create images from prompts, and, things like Midjourney obviously got a lot of excitement around it. And they are really fun tools to play around with from like an individual perspective. But trying to apply that to a business that needs really clear ROI on the technologies that they're investing in, I think that's where a lot of the like cool AI tools start to fall down, and that Vizcom taking really practical applications that enable existing skill sets and design intention to really drive things forward have resonated well.
Yeah, it's super cool. It like takes the control to the next level. Very nice. Maybe Naya, could you talk about a little bit of your personalization features?
Totally. Yeah. I guess like the three sort of examples we'd bring up, firstly, I think as we can see, like some of the text to model and text to image and text to text type of applications, you have to be really good at prompting, right? In order to kind of get those to the right spot and iterate lots and lots of times. And so one of the ways that we wanted to kind of make it easier for teams to get to more specific and unique results was through the whole project memory, right? You already have so much amazing data, right? And you've done so much incredible work before. Why are you not able to leverage your own work to come up with more unique insights? And so that's like a really important way that we look at customization. The second thing is, we're all about workflow design, right? End to end, you're creating your workflow, you're designing that. Every team is unique. They have different steps and different stages and different use cases for AI across our workflow. And so really just allowing teams to kind of pick and choose, okay, do you want to bring in AI presentation at this point? Do you want to bring in, is this a good moment to run an estimate to understand where the project is going, right? Is this a good moment to come up with some models to sort of brainstorm where things can go? And so we see a lot of teams just customizing that sort of workflow for themselves and evolving that over time. And then finally, we shared a few insights earlier, the AI estimator and the AI manufacturing and the sustainability. Those are just a few examples, right, that teams can get started with. But often with enterprises, their needs are quite unique. And so they'll come and ask us for custom insights, right? Insights like, how does this adhere to safety regulations, right? Are we redoing work from the past? You can imagine some of these enterprises have decades of information and content, and somebody leaves, and somebody comes, and it's like, how do you sort of navigate through this information? And also just like learnings, right? Where could this material be applied, for example, within this particular use case? So, we can get super creative around that. I guess actually enterprises can get super creative around that, and we can help them sort of build out those custom scenarios.
Cool. Very cool. That's a really interesting use case with people leaving and like trying to save, like keep the brain holding all the information. It's like a digital brain.
Yeah.
I know that, so this is a question for you too, is I know that the Naya platform did not incorporate AI tools at one point and then they came about. Is that right? It was the AI tools are without.
Like, you want to take that one?
Yeah, no, that's right, Maggie. I mean, honestly, we have been thinking about AI since day zero. We were building our own models actually, even before the LLM and GenAI blew up the whole landscape. We already had tools that we had built, invested a lot actually in very expensive models that we built on our own for estimation, fabricated matchmaking, things of that sort, because we always knew AI was going to become a significant part of this design process. We had seen it transforming other places, and we knew that we needed to kind of think about this. But yeah, there was definitely issues with the way that was incorporated into workflow, and Sad can also, I think, speak more about it. But yeah, we have spent a lot of time thinking about how we can incorporate this into the product that you see today. Yeah.
Yeah. Were there any, so it sounds like you were kind of ready when it was time to incorporate it, but were there any like challenges with that process?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say like one of the things that when we built some of those early models, they weren't directly integrated into the workflow. And so we saw less usage as a result of that, right? Because you kind of had to step out of, a current view to go into another one and then sort of like, run an estimate or something like that. And so when these models came out, we realized, let's put them right into the workflow. Let's save some cost for ourselves for building out some of these more complex models. And let's really ensure that there's a good level of customization, so that depending on the team and depending on at what point in the project they want to use this particular AI application, they can do that really easily. So that was part of how we sort of navigated that challenge.
The question from the chat. So this question is from Gloria, who is a student in AI engineering. And she's curious about how much time it takes to create such powerful applications. This sounds like for both teams. Start with Vizcom.
Yeah, I mean it's a really good question. I mean, I think it's a hard one to quantify and depends on the direction that you're going. I mean, what I've seen from Jordan, who's really kind of like the lifeblood of our organization, is that, it was something that he was just personally really passionate about. And it's funny, when I was doing my research to join, I was doing some, kind of background digging, and I saw these posts that clearly were by him, from years ago, that he, posted on the industrial design channel and Reddit saying like, hey, I kind of built this thing, it was like mostly for himself, right? Like this was something that he was personally interested in. And then he started like sharing it around. And I remember the top comment was like, once you release this into the world, like, can we get you on world peace? Because like you obviously have like really good sense for what people want and need. But I think it really takes that level of like, that connection to the idea and passion for it, where, when you're starting an entrepreneurial effort, like it's going to consume probably almost every aspect of your life. And it takes that level of effort. And so that the connection to that, I think is really critical. But here we are a few years later, seeing some incredible growth, and just amazing to see, organizations adopt this at broad scale, and the types of companies that we're working with, and seeing the things starting to drive forward. So no, that's not a direct answer. And maybe the Naya team, since we have the co-founders here, can speak to that more directly.
I actually love that question. It's kind of a two-part answer for me, but To Steve's point, it's hard to quantify the time. Like, you spend so many years, but you also pivot and take different directions, explore different things. But what's harder to quantify is the blood, sweat, and tears that go into this whole process. But at the same time, the other answer for me is, like I'm on the engineering side of things, and I've built websites and things all of my life. And 10 years ago, it would take weeks, but now it takes 5 minutes. So, who knows how long it's going to take to build platforms like this in the future. So things are getting better and faster, especially with GenAI. So yeah, I think it to Steve's point, it takes the passion and the desire to build tools for people, and takes years to get to an entrepreneurial venture to success. At the same time, tools are getting so much faster that what you have in your mind can be translated to something that you can share and make value for people much, much quicker than ever before. So super exciting.
And maybe just the thing I'll add there is I think, part of the challenge is getting into organizations, right? And there's creativity around, okay, how are you then marketing these products? How are you selling these products? What's the distribution strategy? And I think at the end of the day, part of a company is building a product. And that's a super hard process. And in some ways, definitely getting easier, right? But, in some ways, there's more competition. And so therefore, you have to be that much better, right, than everyone else to kind of surface. But the other piece of building company, I think the invisible work of all the networks and incredible people and talent and investors and advisors and customers that like really it's a village, right? At the end of the day, they get something done. That's always going to take work. I think I don't know if that's going to be whisked away anytime soon. Hopefully not.
Yeah, it seems like the user feedback part of this is very important from what I've heard from both teams kind of talking about how different companies use their product. It seems like kind of a nice, important loop. Okay, another question from the chat. This one is for Vizcom. So they're asking specifically about training the product for a very specific field, for example, mechanical watches, surgery instruments, or similar very specialized products.
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's one of the most common use cases of the custom pets, since Vizcom has a good base understanding of the world around it, and it's quite good at roughly anything. But if you want to get into the specifics, it definitely helps if you train a custom palette on it, and then the custom palette can execute really well on that specific category.
Yeah, that's very cool. So can you, I have a question about palettes specifically, because I know that's a newer feature. Were there any challenges with bringing that to life?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and Gary, I'd like to hear your take on it. I mean, I think that one of the challenges that we continue to face with palettes is that, I think that there's like a very intuitive workflow that it speaks to, which is like, hey, I'm a designer, I'm creating a new product. First thing I'm going to do is put my mood board together. Like, let's dump that mood board and create a palette, and like now we should be able to train have a rendering style that speaks to like the colors and the shapes and all of these things at the same time. And that's not the way that Vizcom and like the custom palettes feature really works. Basically, you want to have a bunch of really specific, if you have a specific rendering intent, you need to have some things that speak to that rendering intent pretty directly. So having objects in a similar view with similar backgrounds, and being able to reinforce to Vizcom, like, hey, this is the kind of thing I want you to give to me. That works really well. But when you start adding in different things like some color, some picture, like some general shape pieces, things with different backgrounds, things in different views, like oftentimes we're seeing customers get like just not very good results and some frustration on that because they spent a little bit more extra time than they would have if they just plugged in their sketch and used one of the out of the box rendering styles. So I think that's a really interesting question of like, okay, we've got we know our customers want to take Vizcom to the next level and make it their own. But then you have the intention behind the technology, and then how customers, you start seeing them actually adopt and try to implement that technology. And then, from there, with that feature being on the market now for about 4 or 5 months, like how do we start to reverse engineer that so we can enable folks to get the results that they're looking for, or make the way you're supposed to use that feature a little bit more clear. I don't know, anything you'd add to that?
Yes. So basically, the main challenge with the palettes feature was that we have a super talented AI model specialist who creates awesome palettes or like awesome custom models that we package into palettes, and basically the biggest challenge was how to make a workflow out of it and how to put it in front of users so it can be like an automated way of making a custom palette without this AI specialist inside the application. So that was definitely the biggest challenge to get across. And then just getting back to the previous question, it always takes quite a bit of time to make a very well-rounded functionality that is production ready, that addresses every edge case, and that is just ready for the users to take advantage of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it does sound like having something more open-ended would be more challenging too. So that kind of leads into the next question. So this is for both teams. Do you have any tips for beginners or for designers looking to master these tools, or for beginners just starting to learn these tools?
Is this for the Vizcom side? Sorry.
Oh, this is for both sides. So
Okay.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
maybe.
please go ahead. Naya side.
Okay, sure, we can jump in first. Yeah, I mean, getting started, we've made it as easy as possible, right? I think the expertise sort of can take time, and it's really personal how you become an expert with this and how often you use it, right? And sort of what you want for your organization. But in terms of getting started, suggest sometimes you just take an old folder with a bunch of assets in it. Could have 3D models, it could have manufacturing drawings, it could have whatever else in there, and just throw it into Naya, run the project memory feature, and see what an estimate looks like, right? What might this have costed? Another option is you have like an idea for a product you want to create. You might have a Pinterest board, you might have some sketches or renders around it, maybe even something you generate on Vizcom. Throw it into Naya, and then run the 3D model and see what comes out of it, right? See what comes out of like a diversity of assets. And then, also, we often suggest the presentation tool is really, really accessible. So if you have a Google Drive full of stuff from the past, you worked on a project like a year ago and don't really remember it, you can put it in there and you can create a presentation real quick, and you can share it with, your colleagues, and maybe even use it till you land your next project, right? So, there's a few different ways, tentacles to kind of just get into the workflow, try something out, and then, as you sort of continue to do that, you'll find more and more uses as you're customizing your workflow for where these moments can come up for you.
Yeah, and I think from the Vizcom side, luckily it's like a really fun technology to use, and I think it just does some great insight to build that in a familiar, kind of layout for anyone that's used Photoshop. Like, it's going to be pretty clear on, how the layer stack works. The hotkeys are going to be similar to what you're using before, and it just is a fun place to go and like kind of jump in and iterate. And then I think what Vizcom has really gotten right is just in terms of like making resources available in the way that people like to consume them, namely YouTube. There's incredible tutorials that many of which are created by GearGay, that are just kind of easy and straightforward to go check out. So I'd certainly urge the team to, if you're interested, to take a look at our YouTube channel. We really just barely scratched the surface here today.
Very cool. Can confirm the YouTube channel is super helpful. Okay, I think we have about 5 minutes left, so I have one last question that's a little bit open-ended, but how do you all see the design landscape changing with tools like yours? And start anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think from the Vizcom perspective, I think that there's, we get into really interesting conversations with customers. Like it is easier now, and there's a very clear, quantifiable return on investment with being able to accelerate a process that used to take days or weeks into, maybe minutes. However, in practice, do we see our customers, like shaving that much time off of their workflow? Like, no. Usually, what happens instead of at the design review, instead of having, 3 to 5 different options you might take to of like a potential go forward, you might have 3 to 500. It's just that easy now within Viscom and technologies that are in the space to very quickly create these iterations, and it really enables and opens the door for a much broader picture. And we're seeing the need for designers to really, become to really build out this skill set around curation. And how do you now take, with the ability to create such wide nets and this many options, how do you now, be more of like really lean into that kind of tastemaker aspect of the job, and be able to like look at that broad view and say, okay, here are the things that really connect with us and to our customer base.
Yeah, and on our end, I mean, I think I answered something similar 6 months ago. I was totally wrong, so take this with a pinch of salt. But the design landscape is just changing so rapidly with Gen AI. There's always bigger models every other week with more billions of parameters added. So for startups like us, staying model agnostic, being able to offer the best models for you to be working with in platforms like ours is very important for us. Uh, but also, I think Steve kind of hinted at this, but as the AI hype starts to settle down, and everyone is asking about what's the real world value here, right? How is AI effectively solving problems today, rather than, we know it's going to be there forever. We know it's going to change things forever, but how is it bringing value today? And I think that's a question that we're all trying to answer and make better. And that's why you're seeing more and more creative tools and platforms being top of mind for people. I know development platforms like Cursor and Bold, platforms like us and Vizcom on the design front. But there's also challenges too, right? I think data privacy, how is information controlled? The reasoning behind the outputs, right? People want to know, why are models thinking the way they are? Do I trust these outputs, right? So there's a lot of effort and questions and conversations happening around that are exciting. But overall, it's just something that's moving so fast, and it just gives us a lot of opportunities to have these conversations and talk and bring the community together to build something that we know is a future that includes AI. Yeah.
Awesome. Yes. Moving very quickly. Yeah. So it's crazy to think like a year ago, how like simple this a lot of the software seemed compared to how they are now. It seems like things that seemed impossible are happening all the time. So well, I think we are about at time. Thank you so much. I definitely learned a lot. I hope all of you did as well. Um, And Saloni has put the LinkedIn accounts of our panelists in the chat. So if anyone's uh, interested in following them, it was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, both the teams, Naya and Viscom, for joining us. It was great to have like these two really different tools, but like they're sort of like in the design space, and it was really exciting to see how like the founders are designers and how like you guys are making tools for designers, which I think has like a lot of impact for all of us as the design community. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for the demos. That was really exciting, even though it was like very short. But yeah, it was like really interesting to see. And yeah, if people have to reach out, yeah, if the audience wants to reach out, if you have like any contact information that you want to share in the chat, please feel free to. And yeah, we will share the recording on our YouTube channel, and hope you have a good day.
Thanks so much, Soloni and Maggie, for the invite. This is wonderful, and really appreciate everyone for taking an hour here today to chat with us. It's been fun. I'm looking forward to connecting and hearing more from you all.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. It was great.